Here we're going to talk about sequences. So the important thing with sequences is to recognize that each number in the sequence is a term. 3 is my first term in the sequence. 5 is my second term. 7 is my third term. 9 is my fourth term. So I can refer to this first term as when x is 1, because it's the first term, or they might use n as 1. My second term is when x is 2, or they might use n as 2. The third term is when n is 3 or x is 3, and so forth. So you can use the fact that the first term is when n is 1, the second term is when n is 2. You can use that to then create an equation to calculate the 100th term in this sequence. So, if you are given a question like this on the state test, and they are given different equations, different functions for the sequence, you need to pick which one is the function for the sequence. What you can do is use the choices to figure it out. So the first term is -1. The second term is -7. The third term is -13. Let's put in 1 for the and see if it gives us that first term. Let's put in 2 and see if it gives us a second term, and 3 and see if it gives us a third term. So for example, if you look at this first function here, x minus 6, if I put in 1, I have 1 minus 6. The first term in this function right here is -5. If I put in 2 into this function, I have 2 minus 6, -4. So the second term for this sequence is -4. When I put in 3 for this function, I have 3 minus 6 is -3. So the third term is -3. So the sequence that is revealed by this function under option A is -5, -4, -3, not this one. So we know the answer is not A. So take a moment and test out the other choices and see if you can figure out which of these functions gives us this sequence up here. So if you pause it, then press play when you have your answer. The answer is D. Now, some of you probably picked C. C is a trick choice, and notice it is before the real answer, D. If you put in 1, if we look at option C here, if you put in 1 for x, 5 times 1 minus 6 does give us this -1, the first number in the sequence. But if you put in 2 for x, 5 times 2 minus 6 does not give us this -7. It gives us 4. If you put in 3, it does not give us -13. It gives us 11. So the answer is not C. You have to move on to D. You need to make sure that the first term, the second term, test at least 3 of the terms and make sure when you substitute in 1, it gives you the first term. Substitute in 2, it gives you the second term. Substitute in 3, it gives you the third term. Don't be fooled by those trick choices on that state test. Here's another one. Press pause and see if you can figure this out. Instead of x, they're using n. So put in 1 for n and see if it gives you the first term. Put in 2 for n and see if it gives you the second term. Put in 3 for n and see if it gives you the third term. Which of these choices gives you that 2.5, the 5, and the 7.5? The answer is C. If you put in 1, you get 2.5. If you put in 2, you get 5. And if you put in 3, you get 7.5. So don't be thrown off, they could use n or they could use x when writing their function rule. This is another way you might see a question on the state test like this. They're not listing out the entire sequence. They're telling you some of the numbers. They're saying that the third term is 10. They're telling you the fifth term is 26. So which of these functions would work? Which of these rules would work? So you are looking at each of the choices and seeing which one, when you put 3 in, gives us 10, gives us the third number in our sequence. Which of them, when you also put 5 in, gives you 26. If you go through the different choices, you'll see the answer is the second one. 8 times 3 for the third term minus 14. If you put that in your calculator, you'll get 10. And then for the fifth term, 8 times 5 minus 14. If you put that in your calculator, you'll get 26. I will tell you, again, there are some of them that would throw you off. If you put 3 into this one, you would get 10. But if you put 5 into this one, you don't get 26. So make sure that you check both of them. Another type of sequence question you might have on the state test is when they give you a sequence and they say, what is the 100th number in this sequence? So it's easy to see we're adding 2 each time here, but you don't want to keep adding 2 over and over and over again to find out what the 100th number in the sequence would be. So if I were given this type of question on the state test, I would make myself an easy sequence as an example to remind myself how you figure it out. So let me walk through this. So if this is our sequence, 3, 5, 9, if you just know the first term and you know what you're adding each time, you can find any number in the sequence. Like here, notice, to find the second term, I take the first term and I'm adding that common difference, that 2, 1 time. To find the second term, I'm adding 2 1 time. To find the third term, I can take the first term and I add the 2 2 times. So the third term, I add it 2 times. To find the fourth term, I take the first term and I add 2 3 times. You notice what I'm doing? So to find the 100th term, you take the first term and I add 2. How many times? Notice to find the second term, I'm adding 1 time. The third term, I'm adding 2 times. The fourth term, I'm adding 3 times. To find the 100th term, I'm going to add 2 99 times. Or instead of saying 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 99 times, I could write it as 3 plus 2 99 times. 2 times 99. And see what the number is. So you're always taking the first term, you're adding that common difference one less time than whatever term you're trying to find. So try this one. They're giving us a sequence. What is the 75th term in this sequence? So pause it and give this one a shot. So in this case, if you look at the numbers, just pick any 2 numbers next to each other, you'll see that we are adding 7. So the common difference is 7. So you take the first term, the -6, and you're adding 7 one less time than the number term you're trying to find out. So if we're trying to find the 75th term, we're going to add 7 74 times. So this is what I put in my calculator, and you'll see it's 512.